In this video, we'll see what the After Effects interface looks like. We'll create animation based on geometric shapes and text, and learn the basic tools for working in it. Let's start. Now let's create a new composition. Give it a name right here. Choose a resolution. Let's go with 30 frames per second. And the duration of the video is 10 seconds. Yep, we've created the composition. Later we can edit these data if needed. To do this, press Command or Control-K on your keyboard, or click on Composition and Composition Settings in the drop-down box. Now you see on the screen the basic workspace will stick to. But if in the future you want to change the arrangement of the elements, you can do it by going to Window, Workspace. Choose whatever you need. Color option for instance. So, don't be afraid to move or close the windows, you can always open them again here. And also you can reset the changes and go back to saved layout. Now let's get back by clicking on Default. On the left you see a Projects panel. All your photos, videos, and other files uploaded to the After Effects will be shown here. For this video, we will import one file by clicking on the right mouse button and selecting Import in File, or via File at the top of the screen and drop-down list. Now we're dragging it into our composition. Also at the top you see the toolbar. We have the Selection tool, with which we can select and move objects. By holding down the rectangle tool icon, we will see other shapes. Let's create a square for example. It is now displayed on the Layers panel. Now we are entering the text. To do this, select the Type tool. Now both created elements are displayed at the bottom left. Let's change the color, like this. Another tool is Anchor Point. Why do we need it? To put the axis point in the center of the element. To do this, press Ctrl or Command. The same actions here. To make it more clear, now I'm gonna select these two elements. We see that the objects are spinning around their axis. If we put them on corners, they would spin like this. Now let's look at the composition panel, where we see the text and the square at the moment. Here we see a zoom level, and an interesting one, a magnification ratio tool. I usually choose Fit so that when I resize panels, I always see the entire area. There is also resolution. My default is auto, but you can change the quality if you have a slow computer. For example, let's select quarter, see how the quality has deteriorated. However, due to this loss of detail, you can achieve a decrease in render time. Also, there is a toggle transparency grid. If we press it, we won't see anything, since we have no gaps now. But if we move the file and render, we will have a transparent space here. So, this function allows you to see transparent places in the frame. For example, when you put a picture on a background and it happened to be in the wrong position or the wrong size, we can click and see the transparent areas. On the right, we see group panels. There are various settings. Today, we have already dealt with the character settings while changing the color of the text. You can also change the text size here and other basic settings that you've probably already seen in other programs. To change the color of the shape, you must use the tools on the panel at the top, not on the right. Also, here you can add a stroke if necessary, change its color and thickness. Let's go back to the group panel. Unnecessary ones with which you don't plan to work can be closed. If necessary, they can be returned through the window panel. For example, let's return effects and presets. Now we need aligning. To center the square and title along the composition axis. At the bottom of the screen, we see the timeline panel where the main controls for the layers and their interactions will be placed. On the left, there is a list of layers and their parameters. We see a hierarchy of layers. We can lock the element or hide it. We can move it up or down and rename it. Let's take a look at Parenting tool. It allows you to get the parent and child object so that one layer will always follow the other. Simply click on this little curly icon called a pick whip and drag to the layer you want to become this layer's parent, or use this drop-down menu. Now if I take a square, the text follows me. But if I take the text, it can move by itself. On the right is the timeline itself with animation keyframes, which we'll cover in a couple of minutes. There are also the current time indicator, this blue line. You drag it and watch the animation of a particular fragment or press the spacebar to play it. Time navigator that can be scaled, moved for greater convenience. For example, to see a specific time period in detail. Shrink the selected area. We use work area to play specific segments that we want to replace several times, so as not to move the current time indicator over and over. This segment will be looped, so that the playhead will not go beyond the highlighted boundaries. Now let's open the properties parameters. We have X and Y positions. Scale and rotation. Anchor point we have already talked about. What would happen if it stood in the corner? And opacity. The most important thing is the creation of keyframes. It's not that difficult, but you need to be vigilant when you turn them on and at what point. They are needed to record a value at a particular time. This is the basis for animating any of your layers. When you click on the clock icon, the dot will be placed where the playhead stands, this blue line. Place it at 1 second value and press the clock icon next to position. We have created our first keyframe. This place is now remembered by the program. Now let's move to the value of 2 seconds. We can either move it, we see that the second keyframe has been created, or change its indicators here. And as long as our time indicator is in this keyframe, we can move objects, rotate them, and nothing new will be created here. But if I start to shift the playhead and move our objects, then new points will start to be created. We can easily move and delete them. But if we click on the clock icon again, it will become inactive and the animation will disappear. Objects will remain on the screen in their places, but all points with animation will evaporate irrevocably. Now let's repeat. The clock was inactive. We're turning it back on. The keyframe is created. We are putting the point on the second. We want the shapes to appear on the screen in the center. Therefore, in the first frame, we will move them beyond the bottom border. We're done with the first step. The same logic applies to other parameters. As you can see, objects don't appear very naturally. To make it smoother, we need to configure Easy Ease. Click here. This is a graphic editor. Here we can switch. As you can see, there's a blank space here. You have to choose position, because we're working with it now. Here you go. If you see nothing, click here and make sure you have the Edit Speed graph selected. Easy Ease is also covered in detail in one of the following videos. In this one we are just learning the basics. Now select these two key points. Click here. Bend these lines. Now let's take a look at the difference. Note that the rhombus has changed shape to an hourglass. Our animation has become smoother. Well, we've gotten acquainted with the After Effects. Now we can finish the animation using what we already know. By the way, do not forget to save your project. And let's go! I've sped up this part of the video. If you want to repeat this animation yourself, feel free to slow down its speed to see the steps. only the basic knowledge that you already have by watching this video with the After Effects basics is applied here. I will be glad to see your work. Tag me on social media and ask any questions in the comments below. That's what we got. It remains to render. The first way, go to File, Export, or find Render through Composition. Select Settings as on the screen. Select a folder to save. Click Save and Render. The second way is the one I usually use, via Adobe Media Encoder. The same way through Composition. A window opens. Click on the play button. We leave the settings unchanged and voila! We did it! If you liked the video, do not forget to like, subscribe to the channel and forward it to your friends, colleagues. Send me what you've managed to do based on this video. Write whether this video was useful to you. Share your questions or thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.